Welcome to the Set Podcast. My name is Yandiswa. I'm with Nkosana Lkocholo. Moram Xhakaza.
Xhakaza, right, Xhakaza.
And you're right, man. Is everything all right, Xhakaza?
Everything is...
I need to particularly check, Xhakaza, if everything is all right. It's Valentine's Day,
It's Valentine's Day.
So are you sure that you can get confirmation elsewhere that everything is all right?
No,
if I phone your wife now...
Everything is...
Yeah, I'm phoning and if I can speak in.
I've worked in advance.
Yeah,
it's preparation.
Yeah, the preparation. So just everything is
in order. Yeah.
No, thanks, Xhakaza. Welcome once again. This is the Set Podcast, where we shine the light on all issues affecting South Africans. We continue to urge you to like, view, subscribe.
Yes.
And people keep saying, I watched. Like I met a guy today.
Yeah.
Said, hey, I'm enjoying your podcast. So I asked him, did you subscribe? He said, I don't know how to subscribe. Did you like? I don't even know. I'm just enjoying the content, man. I'm supporting. I said, no. You must subscribe.
It's that bell that you...
It says there's a bell for liking and notifications.
Yes.
There's a subscribe button. You just click there, and then there's I like this. Continue. We have a powerhouse, and it's actually coincidental. It's a lovely coincidence that today we're joined by a wonderful female, a well-achieved female. When we see females, we see abantu abahle kuphela, and our interaction end there. But this is a powerhouse in Xhakaza. Yandiswa, Xhakaza.
Yes.
Molo
ninjani?
Siyaphila mina khona.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Welcome.
No, bulela thina man.
Honored to have you.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah, you must say Xhakaza Xhakaza.
It sounds like a gun.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like in the piece.
Yeah, aggressive.
Yes.
But it goes with power. So I was reading a bio.
Actually, that bio Xhakaza mirrors exactly the surname, like Xhakaza. Yeah, you can't be Xhakaza.
Substance. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Actually, we could say that surname means something of substance.
Yeah.
Up until we get another meaning.
Oh wow!
I
like that.
Yes. Alright, my sister.
Tikhona.
Enkosi ngokuba ubenathi. Enkosi for choosing to join us today, especially on this day of Valentine's.
Yes.
Your turn.
Yeah.
I don't know if Valentine's is so happy. There are a lot of stories that are out there. By the way, we're not talking about Valentine's today. We're talking about education. We're talking about basic education. We're talking about higher education. We're talking about surviving education.
Yeah.
About advising parents how to address issues relating to education. How to be involved in their homeworks, their projects. There's a lot. And parents are found wanting because they just can't navigate the space. And we're talking about how to also self-survive as a student throughout up until you make it. Because sometimes you do not get delayed to progress academically because there's no money or there are no schools. Sometimes you just cannot cope because there's a lot that the world is dealing with. So our sister is going to help us with. But it's good that it's on Valentine's Day.
Before you get to that, and I think it's very important, we're going to talk about the link as well. Education, how does it link to a lot of social ills that we have?
Yes.
You know, it just reminded me that on Valentine's Day this year, it's exactly 10 years since Oscar Pistorius made that on Valentine's Day.
Exactly.
So those are the issues that I think we need to keep our viewers
in fact, that even simply means what you do today, you need to avoid creating an anniversary in years to come that will be painful. Because had Oscar not gotten angry, all Oscar needed to do was to be patient, was to be tolerant. If you are to believe his story, there was still no need for him to shoot. If you don't believe his story, it's even worse because you just needed to control anger. I think on this day, while we buy each other flowers, we take each other to date, I think there's a deeper conversation that is needed about how do we behave in love. Are you an easily angered partner? Are you a partner who easily understands? My sister, do you understand, or you say, you know what, unfunny excuses, that's violence, by the way. So are you that person when not and wrong?
No, I'm a very reasonable person. Like you're saying, I think anger leads to a lot of things. So really, if we stay away from the emotion of anger and all its associated emotions as a negative, we would have less social ills, actually.
No, true,
Yeah.
And the gun control, there's so many guns in our country. So many guns that you don't know where they're coming from. You don't even know when you're walking if the next person's got a gun.
Yeah.
In the country, it's something else.
And the gun in the wrong hands.
Yes, and to show how easy it is. I mean, this week in class, we were still, I think the nation is in shock in class. And with the passing of AKA, again, slain artist in class, killed in class, shot in the head, like
Terrible.
that in class. And the brazenness of it all in class, for it to happen in full view, in the glare of everybody in class. That's how confident killers are. Not only did they wait for him to be somewhere private and silent, like shooting the guy like that. If the videos that are circulating are anything to go by, it happened in full view of everybody. And if it was not for the guns, which are in wrong hands, was if a gun is in hands of a person who does not want to protect, meaning you're not involved in security, you're not involved in safety,
you're not a police, you're not
licensed,
you're nothing. You're not in a security industry.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that they are known to be assassins, we know. In fact, these things are spoken about, but these are the conversations you have in our societies, and we live with that in class.
And how do we teach, which I think that's why
exactly.
How do you teach young people about guns?
That's what you must help us with. And the importance of focusing on your academic progression. If we were all, as like growing up, were to focus, you get taught, and I'm sure you will agree with me, to do things that are productive with your life. As a student, as a learner, if the country were to prioritize and focus on things like that, we wouldn't have things like AKA killed like that by somebody who's probably bored and is going to be paid. There was a documentary about Inkabi where they're saying they get paid 40,000 to kill somebody.
Imagine just to take
your
someone's
life.
You cannot put a price on someone's life.
Exactly. But anyway, we're not about that, and we're saying condolences to the family, AKA to the music industry as a whole. We've lost talent that are still going to contribute quite a lot, shaping this country up. But before we zoom into our interview, I just want to go through our guest profile here, so that people can understand who we're talking to. I often say this, if it's you and I talking, you have every right to question, say, why must you believe? If it comes from the horse's mouth, a well-achieved person, then you are likely to listen, even if you're not going to listen to us. So just briefly, this says here, and she'll confirm if this is true, unless she is a social change agent who is passionate about the provision of equal opportunities for all to thrive. Her focus is in harnessing human potential for the benefit of collective advancement. She works with teenagers, parents, and leaders across sectors. She has spent many years working in the education sector, establishing and leading schools in Xhakaza. She believes education is among some of the key institutions in a nation building and raising a generation of human beings that will take humanity forward. Education is at the heart of the society we will inherit tomorrow, and deserve a lot of attention. She says, rethinking in line with who we are and who we are becoming as a modern society. That is what she believes, that education must be at the center of development in who we become, in who we are today. In fact, our ability to contribute to society emanates from education. From education we can extract a lot. But more than that, her qualifications, her work experience, she worked as a managing director at Teen Hubs, former director and principal at UCT Online High School. I'm sure you heard about that.
I've heard a lot.
She is a former director and principal of the UCT, which was a groundbreaking innovation in this country, where a higher institution of learning like UCT is involved in high schooling, so that it properly shapes students, so that students, when they go to first year, they are well clear. Then she's the CEO at the Nali Tuba Trust, founding head of school Arrow Academy in Centurion. So she's a founding head there. To found the entire school, establishing it from ground up, a school. Director at Akane Social Development and Management. She has an MBA from Gibbs, obtained it in 2018. She has a postgraduate diploma in management at VETS in 2016. She has Bachelor of Education at VETS. So I'm talking about somebody who has been learning and learning. My sister, welcome. Is this true?
Yeah, no,
this is huge.
She's quite humble.
He's reading it quite illustrious. It is true. It is very true. I really believe by education is central to everything. Fundamentally, any nation is built on how well educated its people are, and the quality of ideas, the quality of innovation, the quality of leaders, the quality of ethics. The source of it all is the education system.
My sister, before we get to the serious stuff, I always like to do this in a program too, to get to know you, Yandisa. So where do you come from? Where did you grow up?
Oh,
just
yes.
a little bit of
No, certainly. Yeah. So I am a firstborn child, and I was raised by my grandmother from Xhakaza, but my family, yes, Yes, so I went to school at Xhakaza, and then later on went to Pal Girls High, together with my brother. And now I've been married for 12 years to Mduduzi Khadebe. We are blessed with 3 beautiful children. They drive me crazy slightly, but
the children.
The children.
Not Mduduzi.
I know, Mduduzi is a pleasure.
It's the young ones.
It's the young ones, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, so that's a bit
that's
of...
lovely. Yeah.
What you talk about how important education is and all of that. And before we zoom into how do parents get assisted, how do they manage to survive the schooling years of their children, and how do they themselves get involved with your academic achievements to go as far as MBA, there must be something that drives you. It can't be by accident that a person studies all the way to the MBA and all of that. What is it that specifically and particularly drives you about education? What is it that kept you saying, you know what, I want to get to MBA?
Yeah, so it's a funny long story, but I'll summarize it by saying that in primary school, I went to Engapai, which is a primary school in Sobomvetu, and I was taught Xhosa. And then later on, Tatam, having lived Pal for a while now, said, okay, you need to move from Xhakaza and ufunde Pal. And my exposure at Pal, it was so different, just the quality of teachers, the sports, the buildings, yonke, it was very different from Engapai. And I think that for me was the moment where I felt njani kutheni abantwana baseGcuwa bezofumana the kind of education in the facilities abasepal bafumana, so that dissonance yoba umehluko ukhona ngobani abadeserve education ethile abantu basezilalini badeserve njani bona, so I then realized there's something wrong here. But then I was interested. I knew by education can change the game for anyone, and it did for me. I'm a case in point. But that drive of first degree, study again and again and again, and as far as you can take it. So I probably still need to do my PhD just for PhD's sake. Just to set the bar. But yes, I think the motivation for me was education can and does change one's life, but also does change your perspective. Your brain doesn't function the same, but also the quality of life that you live when you are well educated is very different. And I could see that growing up, observing and then abazali parents bechomi zam who are well educated.
You could see the difference.
I could see there's something here, and the common golden thread was the quality of education.
What is it that you saw was different from where you were first schooled, and where you first noticed that no man, there's a difference? Was it in the language? I'm sure because I told you a story about being unable to express myself in English when I arrived in Gauteng for the first time in 1999. Yes. So was it the language? Was it the surrounding? Maybe were there computers, laboratories? What was it that opened up your eyes and said, you know what, we have the, we have like we're disadvantaged where I come from, and these ones have this which we do not have. What is it that you noticed?
So interestingly for me, the story is that I was taught in my mother tongue is Xhosa, which means that I can read, write is Xhosa today, ne? And when I got to a Catholic school, primary school for grade 7, Nepal, I was top of my class. Right? So it's not that our teachers or abantwana abafundiswe nge-home languages zabo bakho clever. No. Bayayazi content. Our teachers, at least in my case, they were teaching, and I knew, and I was actually a very smart person. I competed very well in a private school, Nepal. The difference was the facilities. That was the big difference. The exposure, the facilities, the tours, the swimming, the hockey, the fields, the computers, the exposure.
Libraries.
Yonke lanto, the culture. There was a culture. And I think izikolo zethu are still missing on that. Even with a manner of positive reinforcement. From the nenze into wrong, they, I found uba ePaarl there was no shame. Shaming umntana, making them shrink at the small. There were ways in which they dealt with a behavior that is not acceptable, that did not shame umntana, because the idea is not to kuthiwa ningabakhubi abantwana, and they upheld that value. Whereas in our schools where I was coming from, there was a lot of harshness in treating. It's unnecessary. It's actually not good for the soul of a growing child. So the nurturing was different.
Interesting, because I listened to you, one of the interviews I think that you did, and you said you were exposed to unequal education. And I think it speaks to that. In hindsight, do you think if you're not exposed to the private school education, would you be where you are now today? If you didn't have, I want to say the privilege
of quality education.
I would I wouldn't. You know why? Because I think I can navigate both worlds very well. Okay. I can navigate both worlds. I mean, I'm careful to say this, but the abantu ngabantu, whether umuntu ngumhlophe or umnyama or lindia or umuntu ngumuntu. And I think if our co-exposed or placed in their environments, you constantly think they are different.
It's just the opportunities.
It's just the opportunities to interact and engage and realize we're
all the same.
We're all the same fundamentally, right? So the barrier, yoba indioyika, or I can't know and deny londo, and I think there's a lot of opportunities I would not have walked into if I had thought about no. I think my confidence and the fact that I think I can achieve anything. I can't do I cannot do.
Wow.
And that has helped me. Yeah.
With that question, I thought I was going to ask this later, but because I want us to zoom into establishing the UCT online high school, involvement in the Arrow Academy in Centurion, but I don't want to lose this. You are saying, had you been only schooled probably there would have been limitations in as far as your kind of academic progression, because there are things you would not have been exposed to, and generally you would be disadvantaged one way or the other. What do you think in the scope of our education as led by our government? What do you think is missing? Why do we still have mud schools? Why do we still have,
under trees?
Exactly, under trees. Why do we still have learners who are walking long distances to school, crossing rivers? What do you think is it that the government who's in charge of education is missing? What do you think is missing?
Ethics, integrity. Our government simply doesn't care for its people. We have leaders who do not have a vision for the country. I mean, it's that simple, right? To be quite honest, because what else can it be? What else could it be? Who else can we blame, right? If the leaders we have, and again, as of victims, Nati as the population, because we put those leaders. Sitha bavotayo, sitha bathi hambani niyosileader noba, and I think what encourages the leadership to continue treating abantu ngalendlela ababatreata ngayo is that noba benza ntoni na sizabavotela, noba bangasitreata kanjani na sizabafaka in power. So sine leaders that we deserve, you know. So we can't sit here and cry foul, because xa sivotela the leaders we have sivotelwe sithi. So I think if besine leaders ezine vision for abantu bethu, if besine leaders eziunderstandayo ukuba ukuphuhlisa abantu is what they are there for. Leaders eziunderstandayo ukuba they are here to serve abantu, they are here to take a nation forward. Besingazibani nayo le nto idescribe not in 2023.
But also, you know, on that point as well, so it seems like your parents had a and I'm just putting it to you, they had to decide at some point to say, our child was going to this school, but we realized that there's more that we can do for her, and they took that conscious decision. I'm sure they had to sacrifice. In hindsight, do you think it had to do with the parents having to choose, having to sacrifice to take you to a quality education for you to be successful?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My parents could have made I didn't even know I could not have made that decision myself. So if future yomntana depends a lot on the decisions of abazali.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate that abazali abaninzi relegate themselves of that responsibility. Bacinga bafana ba hayi andimazi noba uhamba kanjani esikolweni njani ungumzali. So yes, for me, if umtata in fact he's a taxi owner, right? And he's been a taxi owner all his life. And he's a very smart person, you know, and he knew uba I couldn't get that far, but abantwana bam will. And the vision he had for his children is what led to where I am, you know. So absolutely, it played a role.
What do you think will become of the country if we continue to have public education and private education, with private education children accessing the best of what the world has to offer? Do you even think we need to continue having that kind of a system where you have public, which in many cases means lower standards and not so much access to a lot of opportunities, and we have private, which means a lot of money but higher standards and access to opportunities?
Look, I don't think it's not whether or not it should continue. It is a matter of a world system. It's systemic. We are in a capitalist society, and that is why i-post office xa ingasebenzi postnet steps in. That is why abantu abane-medical aid and access to private healthcare, while the majority of this country can't access healthcare. That, you know, so private education falls within that scope. That is why security, private security is bigger than the police in this country. You understand? So privatization of things is where we are, but the poor are constantly the ones that take the brunt for it. So, but to put it into context, private education sector is a far more insignificant number when we look at that, because remember, the majority is poor. And the minority.
So those are the numbers.
Those are the proportions, right? So it's. I don't want us to get into the discussion of whether it's fair or not, because it is what it is. What we need to be perhaps discussing is saying, okay, how do we get our public education right? How do we get our public health care right? How do we get our
Everything
power,
public,
right? You
Yes,
understand?
yes, yes, yes.
Because when we get everything public right, it means the majority of the people in this country will benefit,
Yes.
and not just the minority.
Fantastic. I think as we're moving to getting closer to,
Yes.
to what she does
Yes, yes, yes.
every day for a living, to empower previously disadvantaged young people in education. I want to ask you that how do we bridge that gap? Obviously, I think you said a mouthful that we can't have one without the other.
Yes.
I mean, private sector, education has got a role to play. But how do we bridge that gap between the two? How do we find harmony?
Yeah, I think, you know what, I think collaboration and partnerships are critical. If you look at MEC of Education, Free State, and I had the privilege of being at a conference at George, and he shared something that touched me. And he said when he became MEC of Education, he knew when given his budget, to change things around for education in the Free State, what realized I need
Drop in an ocean.
You understand? And so he said, okay, let's hire someone whose role is going to be partnerships.
Within the education space.
Within the education, in his
MEC.
office.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is the best decision he ever made, because the kinds of partnerships abanazo a Free State, I mean, they are doing incredible work, mainly because he realized why resources zamazko enough, but this country imali, corporate has money, corporate has brains, corporate has ideas, private sector has ideas.
So capitalize on a public-private partnership.
And
That's
Free
it.
State is number one. Yes.
And that's my home
Has
province.
been number one.
By the way.
There's the right leader.
Yeah.
Free State has the right leader leading education, and it's partner. So to answer your question, you need to be aware of your constraints. You need to be honest. Get constraints out. And one of the things I think Tinake as a country broadly when it comes to education is that do we have abantu abayaziyo abayenzayo? Number one.
Yeah.
Do you actually
Within the
understand
right places,
your
the right
scope of
positions.
work?
Yes. Yeah.
Ne? And if we take that for granted, we're not going to get far. Nobody, the leader, has a right heart. If they do not have the depth of understanding of and the expertise required to deliver on their work, account is a Wednesday. Okay? So I think, one, we must understand our constraints.
Yeah.
I personally think that is a constraint. We have people in the wrong jobs. Two, like the MEC of Education Free State, partner. You don't know everything.
Yes.
Not true.
As a leader, as a department, you don't. Right? Leverage in knowledge that is already in the ecosystem, which is South Africa, that is sitting in NGOs that are doing research, think tanks, universities, private sector companies, CSI divisions, foundations. There is so much knowledge, and no one is consolidating it to saying the bazile, push any public education. So, and again, this requires a vision, and a heart, and an understanding. And I bleed for my people, and if you don't, you will not have the kind of urgency that is necessary to move this country forward.
You know, you're talking about partnering, and which is amazing, plus taking a private sector, basically bringing it. Because what's going to happen if government doesn't, for public institutions, those potential or would-be partners will thrive in the private space, will continue plowing their money, their ideas, their knowledge, their expertise in the private sector.
Exactly.
Which brings me to this. What does it take to set up a school? When you say you were involved in setting up Arrow Academy, for instance, in Centurion, and this will speak to what becomes a school. What are the fundamentals right at the beginning for a school to be properly set up so that it can meaningfully contribute to society and produce learners that are going to become leaders of this world?
That's such a beautiful question, because I could mention money, capital. I mean, that's just infrastructure and building. But what it really takes is an ethos, the principles. If vision yako is what kind of human beings are we cultivating up kwesisikolo? Sifuna abantwana babe ngabantwana abanjani. And once you have an idea, yoba no man, we are here cultivating innovators, social change agents, entrepreneurs that are of a global scale. The way you teach is different because you understand uba innovator funeka ibe critical think and is we feed the content. Funeka and create an environment where their thinking can come to fruition, which means that your teachers become facilitators. You understand?
Not abantu abasafundulwe lamalungelo abo mhlakazi. But abantu abafuna a meeting and say we're not paid enough or this curriculum is very clear.
Yes, you know, your teachers understand uba abantwana bane existing understanding of the world and they provoke that, you know, they bring it up. So when you ask the question, I think fundamentally it's a vision of the kind of adult you want abantwana bekwesisikolo kuso. Who are they going to become?
So you don't see them just as children.
No.
Abanemifinya, abafuna dismisswa nje nakanjani. Ubajonga namhlanje and look them 20 years from now. Who are they going to become?
So values such as ethics, stealing someone's pen, funeka be a big deal there. Because what kind of leader is this going to be that steals? You understand?
You know,
and you graduate from stealing a pen.
My nephew came back from school and like the entire pack gone. Like
pencil
that.
Case was gone.
Yes, pencil case gone.
So you experienced the pencil case
devastated. Exactly. So Unyansile closity, it starts with
it starts there. So as the leader of the school, ndiphakame pen. Not because it matters.
You turn the school upside down looking for a pen.
Right now,
break for that matter.
Because you are sending a message.
And somehow that plays in the children's mind.
Oh, it does. It does.
It's the biggest sin.
Yes, it's a pen.
Yes.
So they can't imagine
any other thing.
Stealing imali. If the principal makes such a big deal, a pen. You understand? So you will find ijezi zabantwana zisepasejini, which is another thing, cleanliness. You know, but izinto azibiwa. They are just lying around because they know. You understand? So that's the value. The values funeka zilivwe out zingaxhonywa and no one does anything. Bullying, for example. Imbi into ye bullying.
And in our schools, there's so much bullying.
It's terrible. It is a terrible pandemic, because what it says is that it is okay to denigrate omnye. It is okay to injure another soul. But then also, when you attend to umntana who's bullied omnye umntana, you must understand lo mntana who's injured lo omnye injured yena self
from home, from somewhere else.
So I will be quite aggressive because I'm done saying yena kuqala.
Awuthatha imvubu.
No. Umenza worse. Umenza worse. And I think abantu abathatha imvubu abana macebo. Abana knowledge. Yoba ndingayithini. You know, so it's lack of knowledge.
My sister, you said something, and I think in one of your interviews you spoke about, and I think we'll touch on that, about the idea of education which caters on individuals. It's around individuals. It's not, you don't treat kids in a classroom as they are dead, but you are able to focus on each individual. I want us to touch on that. The reason I'm saying this is because I think she spoke about that in that interview, and a lot of kids, for instance, when I was in high school, I struggled to finish. I was slow in terms of writing. I'll probably, out of 10 questions, I'll do 7 questions, and time will overtake me.
That's my son
and
right
that
now.
I'll be judged because I'm slow, not because I'm not
Yes.
capable to do that. You know.
I know.
And I think that touched me. You know.
I know. It hits me all the time. And it's one of my pain points with education is because if you look at the history of education, how did it come about? Number one, izikolo. How did they come about? Izikolo were set up to feed into the factory system. In of the second industrial revolution. You understand? So i-structure ye-classroom nala i-break kukhali ibhele ii-factories zazisebenza kanjalo, so kwakupreparishwa abantwana so that bazohamba bayosebenza efactory. So la uniformity befuna wonke umuntu afane because asifuni umuntu ozobe yabona sifuna abantu abazokwazi uba zi-factory workers. We are in a different time. We require different skills. Sifuna abantu abacingayo. Sifuna abantu abathi, why are you expecting me to do it this way and not that way? Abantu abazothi, no, but this is not efficient. There's a better way of doing it. There's a quicker way. Working smart, not hard. That's the generation we are in. And yet, no. And yet, the education system yet to produce abantwana besefect. That's our problem. And that is why we treat them the same. Children are bored esikolweni because thinking yabo is here. Isikolo is here. So into abafundiswa zona esikolweni is izinto that they can Google. You understand? They don't need to be studying that stuff. Why must I study facts I can Google? Teach me how to think.
How to think, in fact how to question as well.
Teach me how to contend with policy. Expose me to the world. Teach me about China and Singapore and how they got where they are and how we can copy some of these things for our own country. Tell me about Africa as a continent and how we got to this situation.
So knowing about Jan van Riebeeck himself, Jan van Riebeeck is not going to help you.
Let's talk about China, Singapore, and many other countries which are developmental, very developed, where we're told a 10-year-old is learning how to assemble a television set, what is behind the phone, not just what you see, but what makes the phone function.
Sketching
daka, senza irrecitation, or singa machoni, and see, and all of that. Do you think we are not structuring our education properly? Do you think in the system we are focusing on less developmental things, or we just don't know how to move forward?
We have an outdated curriculum. Outdated. Aiko relevant. Not for this economy. You understand?
Not the social science.
No,
my child is getting down with this. Big social science.
We need innovators. We need people who.
The curriculum yethu is outdated. That's our biggest problem. As in abantwana abazifundayo ngoku. Hey, given where we are and where we are going, Aisha mazizibanceda ntweni. That's number one. Number two, sinengxaki ye-aging teacher population as a country, ne? So itishara no tisharakazi bethu babetrainwe phi ngobani? Ababa ku system ngoku.
Itishalena 30 years itishala mhlelezi.
Still going.
Yeah, and it's not about the stop. Why trainwe phi mhlekazi? Wayifunde ntoni phi?
Wayifunde ntoni phi? Ufundisa ntoni ngoku? You understand? Now, it's a deeper problem because then we look at, but bakhona young teachers that are coming through the system. Are they there? You understand? Do they stay in the because the young generation wants growth professionally. Now you must be a teacher for 80 years before you can become a HOD. So progression within the education system for a professional is not enticing for a young person to get into the
50 years.
Journey.
You're already about to retire at that age.
I mean,
yes.
You understand? Yeah. So a core incentive for young people to get into the education space. So abakoyo bayaguka, but asina pipeline it I call healthy. You understand? So we've been in this problem for a while. So within the education space it means and when you talk about buildings, ezinye are just heartbreaking because they're just symbolic of a leadership that is not there.
Now, my sister, when you sound like you're already ahead of time. I mean, and you speak about, I want us to touch on that. Your involvement in the UCT, yes, online schooling, and yet we're still using paper in many schools. Using
chalkboards. How did that concept come about?
It broke my heart, that concept, I must say, because the technology is ahead of our development. You understand? Great idea, but as call up. Not by any stretch of imagination. Akho infrastructure, akho mbane, akho network. Abantwana bakwazi noyisebenzisa abantwana bakwazi noyiswitcha on i-laptop. Abantwana batype phi noma baqale phi. You understand? So xa umuntu ebhalise i-assessment kwi-online i-time out because andithi unikwa mhlawumbi 60 minutes for a test. Uyayazi content qha utype uslow kutype.
Which grades are these?
But content on a high school grade 8 to 12.
Imagine in grade 8 you don't know how to function, how to operate, how to move smoothly on a computer. I-hardware asikathethi ngesoftware, asikathethi ngoba send an email, asikathethi ngoba
the struggle.
The technology is ahead of our development. And so a great majority of our people cannot leverage it as core ready. And what breaks my heart even further is the fact that izinto that are going to make us ready zidependa kurhulumente. Kukho izikolo ezingena ezinombane but akho plug apha eklasini. Akho plug yo charge laptop. You understand? And this is not a few schools. So yes, UCT Online High School is a great concept, but CEP?
In fact, it then simply means that UCT Online concept will only serve those who are already ahead. Because umntana ongena mbane kokwabo ongena access to computer cannot even be assessed to be accepted there.
Ongena ndawo yohlala quietly azihlalele okanye study okanye ispace kuyaphithizela kubhizi kwamakhulu sihleli sibaninzi uthi uzafunda phi lo mntana.
Benza homework abantwana kubukela iTV mhlakazi. Ischeme sami siyadlala ngapha umntana ubhizi uzabhala homework ngapha naye umane ejonga mhlakazi ubana kuthiwa kuthiwa bhala wena ubukela iTV but
the environment is not conducive for learning. And I think that's another thing as abazali. We need to be, I think abazali, there's a lot happening for abazali. So I don't want to crucify them kakhulu. But zininzi izinto abanganceda kuzo, you know? Just creating a space. Ufumazi umntana is writing exams. Kubhizi kuyangxolwa apha endlini.
But to create njani space
nihlala ulalela amapiano. So those are the things,
yes. But sihlala ku-RDP house mhlakazi. Ina 2 bedrooms. Umama notata nabantwana abayi.
Even worse, you stay in a shack.
Okanye nihlala emkhukhwini, my sister. How, in fact, let's zoom right into the how do parents survive the primary schooling of their children? What advices are there? What can they do? Taking into account that it's a lot of it has got to do with infrastructure, with what is outside the education scheme, but enables what must contribute to the child's thriving. So how do parents get involved?
I think abazali firstly must understand that they have a role to play. Abazali have a role to play because esikolweni itishala are dealing with big classrooms. You understand? Akho individual attention yoba usipho wakho shem is struggling apha nalapha. It's very few cases where that's possible, which means that wena as umzali ingxaki yakho ke ngointo yoba ucheck uba kuthiwe by end of grade 1 umntana should be able to read. Uzocheckwa ngubani? If akachekwanga nguwe,
so it still comes back to you as a parent.
It comes back to you as umzali, ne? But abazali, for example, great majority abasebenzayo funeka bavuke ngo-4 ekuseni so that bayoba semsebenzini ngo-8 bafike endlini ngo-8 selele lo umntana funeka checkiwe, right? So abana opportunity yo interact, but uyakwazi uzicheck incwadi zomntana elele. You understand? Uyakwazi nge-weekend ulenza ixesha loba khawufunde le ncwadi yakho or khawundibhalele u-A E I O U just to gauge uba umntana inobuphi. Right? So where there's a will, there's a way. And abazali bayathanda ukubeka phambili ingxaki zabo ezininzi. Ingxaka zindawo soloko zikhona. ne neza constraints zoba ndihlale etyotyombe ndihlale RDP fine.
I'm a professional.
If awufuni lo nyana akho okanye le ntombi yakho ihlala kweli tyotyombe uhlala kulo nawe uzokwenza iplan. You understand?
Check homework podcast mentally it was work, then it was podcast, then go homework. But do you think, my sister, the system itself is friendly to parents? And then I'll make an example. Kids come back from school, let's say they're doing 5 subjects. 5 subjects, each of which has got like long homeworks. I'm still gonna drive probably an hour to get home. Is the system? I mean, as a parent, what I'm trying to say is that is the education system, whether public or private, not placing more than enough burden on parents to a point where it becomes difficult for kids to sort of smoothly move sufficiently with the information they got from school independently. There's need to be a parent who must ambonisa here and there, which I'm very involved in my child's schooling. It's very tedious.
Those homeworks,
yes. Is that the only way? Can't at schools at least is it not too much?
So it is too much. But it's the cards we've been dealt, and we have to play them. Education system here too is not jacked. So we unfortunately are in a situation that requires us, to have this added burden. And it's a systemic problem. So you can't say, but isikolo bekufana abayigqiba yonke lento. Abayigqibanga. Sithini ke ngoku? You must step in, you understand? So Aero Academy, where I was founding head of school, what we did is that we had after school, we had a session, which is not necessarily good for a young child. You understand? Because abantwana need space and time to play. Babe ngabantwana. But we found abazali badiniwe. Babuya late ebusuku. So
you found that there's a lot of Yandiswas out there.
Yes,
they
we
still
knew.
have to do a lot of spend hours.
Exactly. So then we made after school. They would play for a little bit, spaniki hour, then they'll go back by Wednesday homework.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yes. So there are. If the school is deliberate and understanding of the social context, they will make a plan. But when the school is not making a plan,
it cannot be an island. You must understand the dynamics of the
Kaloku, a school exists within a society. It is a microcosm of the society. So you can't be an island as a school. So as a school, you must be aware uba in our communities.
I just want to know, we've just had a little helping child with homeworks and all of that, but it gets beyond that. For a child who's in high school, who's dealing with a lot, who's getting familiar with the development of Zimbabwe, who's getting attention from society as a whole, who's getting fed all sorts of ideas, and umntwana finds all sorts of creative things to do, even drugs for that matter, even outgoing life, part life. How can a parent be involved? What must a parent do? Because he's like, when I and how to get involved at that level? I just want to push it a little.
Yes, so so I think teenage years the fickle, the tricky, because abantwana xa befika kula minyaka ye teenage years, they are trying to form an identity. Uba mna ndingubani, mna outside of abazali notishala. Who am I? And exesheni elininzi abazali understand this stage. In fact, abasifuni and abasithandi because siyaba challenge. And they need to understand that it's a natural progression of a human being. You understand? So, and if abazali are not having the conversations, zoba mamela ke, this is what you are going to experience as a person. You understand? If decisions zakho ozawuzenza namhlanje can impact your future badly. Be careful of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Have the conversation. Abazali sit there and hope for the best. Really, they sit there and hope, hey, I hope. No. have an open conversation, thetha nomntana, umcebise, umbonise, and understand uba rightfully so. Lo mntana is forming an identity for themselves.
They'll be an adult very soon,
And if you are not telling them or guiding them, yoba, this is the right way. And these are the mistakes I have made mna as umzali. La vulnerability, abazali bafuna uba appear as if they are perfect bona. They are not.
What do we say umntana yena at that stage? What do you say umntana must do? Maybe kuhlangabezana nomzali, kuhlangabezana netishala, kuhlangabezana society. What would you say they should approach that kind of
you don't start the conversation as a umntana xa a teenager. Umntana ukhula naye ubuild trust ne-rapport. Umntana akuthembe. As a reliable source that they can come to bathethe nawe. Awuzuthi ube absent or they are breaking suddenly umuntu na 16 you wanna appear, they don't trust you. Who are you? You don't even know me telling me bangani namakhwenkwe. Wena wawungahambi nawo amakhwenkwe. Akho nto irongo for a teenager uba ahambe namakhwenkwe. Number one, it's a natural process.
You should be able to trust them.
Yes.
Your teachings.
You should rely on your teachings. Ingxaki esiyibonayo in our societies that abazali they don't parent bethunana. Abantu don't parent, ne? Abanye abazali due to different circumstances babashiya abantwana no mama babo no tata babo bakhuliswe ngomakhulu abadiniweyo makhulu kudala besebenza.
Udala wena ungamameli.
Uhambe wena uye eGauteng umshiye nomntana apha, you understand? So abanye abantwana abanabazali. In that sense akho umuntu uthi no. Ixesha lakho mayibe this time at home. Insist because sometimes buyers push boundaries, especially kula age. Bazofuna ubona ubuzakwenza ntoni. Xa uthe
Experiment.
ngo6 ube lapha endlini uzakabuye ngenye imini ngo9 and check ubuzawuthini.
Phambani beligeza umhlazi. Khupha imvubu ke ngoku.
Nixabane ke ngoku trust is gone.
At tertiary, how do you survive tertiary as a student? I mean, a lot is happening there. It's an exposure of new life, new environment, new society, new people, new way of living altogether. You get there. I mean, you had your first degree, had your second one, you had your MBA. How do you stay focused? Babene MBAs njengapha.
Abazali ke abakho involved kakhulu ku university because this is now a young adult.
Yes, finding themselves.
Phumile ngokuzaleni zakho. Now you can just pray as umzali uthandaze bomntanakho, all will be well. But wena as a young person also university funeka umise ingqondo all the time. There are so many traps. So you can get there uhambe uphume ungenayo degree. It happens to a lot of people. So if awumisanga ngqondo now understand buzothini apha. Uzifuna ntoni for yourself. Ube ne clear vision of your future, right? Now I had the posters in my res room. Yoba ndizoba CEO ngenye imini. I'm gonna have an MBA. I'm gonna own schools. It was clear. So every day I knew, but that's what I'm working towards.
That's objective.
It distractions as it means.
Not to Beyonce, you didn't have a Beyonce.
I'm telling you. So that's an adorable Beyonce. But yes, I think it's a tough space. Let's be honest. It's a tough space because udibana nabantu abaninzi from different all walks of life. You understand? So you are grappling with ndingubani mna in all of this chaos. Who am I? And the question of who am I, kukho abantu abadala abangangawo basazama uziphendula uba who am I? Yabona la process iqala pha. Do I raise my hand in lectures? Language yam ininzi maninto. Confidence ininzi into eyenzekayo for a young person in university. So we need to hold space. Those who can mentor a young person because wow, it's a lot. But if they keep the vision clear, it will help them through.
So meaning society, when you meet a kid who is at university, be sensitive. Be sensitive. Tread clear.
Yes. Yes.
Lamd is going through a lot. Oh, that's amazing. One last thing, that just I wanted to ask. I noticed from your biography, and I also noticed that you have not mentioned it. It appears you are not in the public sector space directly, and with so many ideas,
so much
with
wealth
such
of knowledge,
involvement, and young and bright. Why?
That's a good question.
Why are you not? You know, because when I see brightness, when I see brilliance, I wish I'm passionate about public sector at all levels, national, provincial, local. I'm passionate about it because we need such intellectual capacity and skills. But why?
No, maybe in the near future. I'm also passionate about the public sector. I think the only way to effect change at scale is through. You need to be involved in government. I don't see a way out. You understand? If you work for an NGO, a corporate, you can fund, but systemic change happens at that level. So maybe I should start canvassing.
When Gauteng class, so the premier must get in touch, and no one's HOD like
so that we can compete against Free State.
Exactly.
Yes.
Actually,
so
if Ubanyaza wants to be number one, you know, bring you so that Gauteng can be number one. My sister Nkosman, I think it's Xhakaza. In fact, that's Gibanga, but never see Gibela in there. And I feel like we've just started now. But thanks a lot for your assistance. Thanks a lot for help us, navigate this space. I hope this was beneficial because I hope it will spark, because what we are doing here, we talk about what we're talking about and offer what we think is a solution, but in the main, want the conversation to extend to the public. Want abantu makaya, abantu ekuhlaleni, ezikolweni, emisebenzini, to take the conversation forward. I just want to say, in our individual spaces where we are, let's talk about these things. Maybe ideas can come about and we change and create a better future, a brighter future for the betterment of this country. So Nkosman, my sister, Yandiswa Xhakaza. You do not say Xhakaza, no
Xhakaza.
Exactly. No, you did.
My sister, you did just.
Thank you.
If ukindevelayo saphinde sikubize, maybe xa kusondele exam time or career guidance time, we'll call you to say, talk about career guidance, how do you decide which path to take? Those are the things we're going to talk about. Preparing for an exam, the practicalities. Do you sit there and look up and then say, it is this, it is that?
No.
Then how to prepare? We're going to talk about those things and then make sure that we contribute to building South Africa. And my sister, Sigqibile Mhlekazi. Bongani ngasilethi Sigqibile bongani. Bongani ngacima cameras Sigqibile.